Okay. The next example, let me zoom in on this one. Okay, this example has class vehicle2. Okay, it has vehicle2 and byte2, which extends vehicle2. Vehicle2 has its constructor, where the constructor just print that vehicle is created. And so here in byte2, I have constructor for byte2. And constructor for byte2 calls, well, it has its own code, but it calls super, which is a method. All right, it's actually a superclass constructor with no parameter. Okay, so it calls this one and execute the code. Vehicle is created, printed first, then byte is created, is printed second. Okay, let's see this example in the actual run itself. So let's see byte2. Okay, here I have vehicle2. Well, two constructors even. And constructor says vehicle is created and vehicle with one parameter is created. Okay? And byte2 extends vehicle2. So I have this one from the slide. Okay? I have vehicle2 from the slide like this, and byte2 from the slide. No parameter. See? No parameter for both of them. Let's look at the no parameter version before we go to the one parameter version that I've written. Okay, the no parameter version. Okay, so what happens if I new byte2? In the main method, I new byte2 without the keyword super. So without the keyword super, so we do not explicitly specify that we will call superclass constructor. Right? What will happen? Well, what happened is vehicle is created, is called. So even though we do not write super, we do not call superclass constructor, your code, well, your constructor of a subclass will call superclass constructor by itself automatically, and it will call the version with no parameter since we did not write anything. Okay, it will assume that it should call a superclass constructor, and that's so. Okay, so the result, if we do have a superclass constructor called here, actually it's the same. Okay, it's the same. Not having super doesn't matter here because it will call super automatically. Right? But, well, one thing, since if you don't write the call to constructor of superclass, it will call constructor with no parameter. You must make sure that your superclass has constructor with no parameter. Otherwise, it will crash because it will try to call the constructor with no parameter, which doesn't exist then. Okay? Right. So, what about here? Okay, let's try something unusual. Here, I try to call superclass constructor after the code of byte2. Well, it turns out the compiler doesn't allow it. Okay? Constructor of the superclass must be called to initialize all variables of the superclass before our current class can do anything. All right, that's the structure that enforced by the language. Okay, so all variables and initialization of those variables must be done first, okay, from the superclass that we inherit. Okay, all variables there must be initialized first, then the code of our current constructor should then start. Okay. All right. So now let's see another version. The version with one parameter. So I have equal to, right? And it says in its constructor, it says record with one parameter is created. And in byte2 constructor, it says, well, byte one parameter is created. And here I call superclass constructor with one parameter. Okay, so byte2, when it get execute, let's do it. Okay, here byte2 gets created. A constructor with one parameter of byte2 is called. So it calls this one, starts execution, call superclass constructor with one parameter. So it calls vehicle2 with one parameter and print vehicle1, vehicle with one parameter is created. Okay, so this will print vehicle with one parameter. And then it will print bike with one parameter. Okay, and this one doesn't work. Right, we can't call super after any code of the current constructor. So we can't call it after this code. Okay, right. So when it runs, okay, it will execute vehicle with one parameter first, then byte with one parameter. Okay. Right, so that's how it's execute. What about this? What if I don't have super here? If I don't have super here, what will it call? Well, by the rule, it must call a superclass constructor anyway, right? But since we do not specify anything, it calls superclass with no parameter. So let's see. It calls constructor of the superclass with no parameter. Right. Okay. And the thing we should be careful is that if we don't have this one, let's see. Oops. Sorry. Okay, I will just comment them out. Okay, if I don't have this one, then byte2 constructor would not be able to run because it will try to call superclass constructor with no parameter. All right, since we comment everything out, it will call the no parameter version, which no longer exists. So it causes an error. Alright, so this program will not compile. Okay, and here, since we have in record 2, we do have another constructor. That means if we do not write a default constructor, it doesn't exist. Okay? So that's what happened. Okay? So let's rewind. Okay. Wind it back to normal before we run. Okay. Okay, so that's it for this